The blue light of the communication screen cast shadows across Commander Frank Winter's tired face. It was 3 in the morning when the strange signal reached Earth Defense Command. Frank rubbed his eyes and leaned closer to the screen. "Sir, you need to see this," he said into his communicator. Admiral Laura Bennett arrived within minutes, her uniform wrinkled from being hastily put on. Her gray hair was pulled back in a messy bun, but her eyes were sharp and alert. "What do we have, Commander?" Frank pointed to the screen. "A distress call from a species we've never contacted before. They call themselves the Vosarians." The screen showed a thin, insect-like creature with large compound eyes. Its exoskeleton shimmered with an iridescent green. 4 arms moved in agitated gestures as it spoke in a clicking language that the translation computer struggled to process. "Please, help. Kryvaxian Empire. Attacking our cities. Millions dead. Peaceful people. No defense." The translation came through in broken phrases. Admiral Bennett frowned. "Show me their location." A star map appeared, highlighting a system about 3 months' travel from Earth. "Send this to the Council immediately," she ordered. "I want an emergency meeting at 800. The United Earth Council chamber was filled with heated debate. 12 representatives from Earth's unified regions sat around a circular table, with Admiral Bennett standing at the center. "We can't ignore this," Bennett argued. "If we turn our backs on those asking for help, what message does that send to the galaxy?" Representative John Greer from the North American zone stood up. "Earth is still rebuilding. The Zenith Collective nearly destroyed us last year. Our best ships are tied up protecting our colonies. Not to mention the cost," added Representative Maria Ortiz. "Our economy is just starting to recover." Bennett placed her hands on the table and leaned forward. "The Vosarians are being slaughtered. If the Kryvaxians finish with them, who's to say they won't come for us next?" The council president, an older man named William Chen, raised his hand for silence. "What do you propose, Admiral? You admit we can't spare our frontline vessels." A small smile crossed Bennett's face. "We still have the old fleet, the ships we were planning to decommission next month." Murmurs filled the room. Representative Greer laughed. "Those rust buckets, some of them are older than I am." "But they still work," Bennett insisted. "And they're better than nothing, which is what the Vosarians currently have." President Chen stroked his beard thoughtfully. "Who would you send to command this mission of mercy?" Bennett pulled up a personnel file on her tablet. The image showed a stern-faced man with salt and pepper hair and tired eyes. Captain Samuel Reeves, 27 years of service, passed over for promotion 3 times due to his unconventional methods. "A troublemaker?" Chen asked. "A resourceful officer who thinks outside the box," Bennett corrected. "Exactly what we need for a mission like this." The council debated for another hour before President Chen called for a vote. The decision was made by a narrow margin. Earth would send help to the Vosarians. Captain Samuel Reeves stood on the observation deck of the United Earth Command Station, looking at his new assignment. The U.S. Constellation hung in the docking bay, its hull showing patches of newer material where repairs had been made over its 40 years of service. "Your new command, Captain," Admiral Bennett said, joining him at the window. Sam gave a short, humorless laugh. "You know they call this ship the Dinosaur, right? I'm aware of its nickname. This is punishment for the Centauri incident, isn't it?" Bennett shook her head. "This is an opportunity, Sam. These aliens need our help, and you're the best person for this job." Sam looked unconvinced. "You're sending 7 outdated ships against what could be an entire empire. You're sending us to die." "I'm sending you because I believe you can succeed," Bennett said firmly. "The Constellation may be old, but so are you, and you're still one of our best." Sam watched as dock workers swarmed around his new ship, preparing it for the coming mission. 3 months to Vosarian space, he said quietly. "I hope they can hold out that long." "So do I, Captain," Bennett replied. So do I. The U.S. Constellation's meeting room was small and lined with outdated star maps. Captain Sam Reeves looked at the faces of his senior officers, trying to hide his disappointment. "So this is the crew Earth sends to save an alien species," he said, his voice flat. Lieutenant Olivia Porter sat with her boots on the table, flipping a coin between her fingers. Her red hair was cut short, against regulation length. Her service record showed 5 disciplinary actions in the past year alone. "Something wrong with us, Captain?" she asked with a smirk. Next to her, Chief Engineer George Miller sighed. At 62, he was well past the usual retirement age. His hands showed the burned scars of a lifetime working with engines. "The Constellation's engines are running at 83% efficiency," Miller reported. "Best I can do with parts this old." Communications specialist Zoe Grant was barely 23, fresh from the academy with no combat experience. She seemed nervous, constantly adjusting her uniform collar. "I studied all available information on insectoid language patterns, Captain," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "I should be able to improve our translations once we meet the Vosarians." Dr. Paul Carter was the only civilian on the command team. The xenobiologist looked completely out of place in his plain clothes among the uniforms. "I've never seen a real alien before," he admitted. "Only studied them from research papers." Sam rubbed his temples. "The other 6 ships in our fleet are similarly staffed. We're the leftovers, people. The ones Earth could spare." He stood up and activated the holographic display in the center of the table. It showed their small fleet, 7 aging vessels of varying sizes and designs. U.S. Constellation, our flagship. U.S. Horizon, U.S. Dauntless, U.S. Endeavor, U.S. Intrepid, U.S. Valor, and U.S. Reliance. Together, we're officially designated as Rescue Fleet Sulu. Porter snorted. Rescue Fleet Scraffeep would be more accurate. Sam ignored her. "We have a 3-month journey to Vosarian space. I expect each of you to have your departments running at peak efficiency by the time we arrive." He looked each of them in the eye. "The Council thinks we'll fail. Admiral Bennett is the only one who believes in us. I'm not sure I do either, but we have our orders." 2 weeks into their journey, Sam found Lieutenant Porter in the ship's gym, punching a heavy bag with wrapped hands. "Your file says you were on track for your own command," Sam said, holding the bag steady. "Before the incident at Europa Station." Porter hit the bag harder. "I was right about the smugglers. The Admiral's son was involved. Politics won. I lost. And now you're stuck with us," Sam said. "Just like you're stuck with us after the Centauri mess." She stopped punching and looked at him. "You disobeyed orders to save those colonists. And lost 2 ships in the process," Sam added. Porter wiped sweat from her face. "The crew talks. They say this mission is our last chance. Succeed or forced retirement." Sam nodded. "Probably true." In engineering, Chief Miller worked with his team of similarly aged technicians. They called themselves the Gray Squad. "This converter hasn't been manufactured in 15 years," Miller told Sam during his inspection. "We're using spare parts and creativity now. Will it hold together?" Miller smiled, showing yellow teeth. "This old girl has tricks the newer ships don't. No fancy computers to fail. Just good, solid engineering." On the bridge, Sam watched as his fleet traveled through space. The ships were mismatched, outdated, and crewed by officers who were either too young, too old, or too rebellious for better assignments. "Fleet status report, Ms. Grant," he ordered. "All ships maintaining formation, Captain," she replied, more confident now than in their first meeting. "The Intrepid is having trouble with their long-range sensors, but Captain Alvarez says they can manage." Sam stared at the view screen showing the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, an alien race waited for their help. They had no idea that Earth had sent its weakest fleet. 2.5 months to go," he said quietly. "Let's hope we're ready when we get there." Red lights flashed on the bridge of the U.S. Constellation as the human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Captain Sam Reeves gripped the arms of his command chair. "Status report," he ordered. "Multiple enemy vessels detected in orbit around the third planet," Lieutenant Porter announced, her eyes fixed on her tactical display. "I count 17 Kryvaxian warships. They're bombing the surface, Captain." The main view screen showed a blue-green planet with large oceans and 2 small moons. Flashes of light burst across the planet's surface as the alien ships rained destruction from orbit. "Any response to our hails, Grant?" Sam asked. Communications Specialist Grant shook her head. "Nothing from the Kryvaxians, sir. But I'm picking up a weak signal from the surface. It's the Vosarians, using an old frequency." "Put them through." The screen changed to show a dimly lit underground room. 3 insectoid aliens huddled around a communications device. Their exoskeletons were dulled with dust, and one was clearly injured. "This is Captain Samuel Reeves of the United Earth Fleet. We received your distress call." The lead Vosarian's antennae twitched rapidly. "Earth sent help. We had given up hope." The translation came through much clearer now, thanks to Grant's work during their journey. "I am High Minister Zilks of the Vosarian Unified Territories. The Kryvaxians arrived 1 standard month ago. They seek our mineral deposits and agricultural lands. They're systematic," another Vosarian added. "They destroy 1 city each day. We have lost 14 population centers already." Minister Zilks moved closer to the screen. Is this all Earth sent? 7 ships." Sam noticed the disappointment in the alien's voice, but kept his expression neutral. "We're the advance force. Tell us what we're facing." An hour later, the senior officers gathered in the meeting room. Ambassador Kira Ellis, the diplomatic officer assigned to the mission, joined them for the first time. Her dark skin contrasted with her silver-white hair, and she moved with the careful precision of someone used to choosing their words carefully. "The Vosarians are hiding in underground bunkers," she explained. "They're peaceful agrarians with minimal weapons technology. The Kryvaxians have a predictable attack pattern," Lieutenant Porter said, projecting a tactical map. "They target 1 major population center daily, at the same time. Their ships move in formation to support the attack. Like they're not worried about resistance," Sam noted. "They're overconfident," Porter agreed. "I've spotted gaps in their defense grid during the bombardment phase." Dr. Carter cleared his throat. "Minister Zilks has sent biological data on the Kryvaxians. They evolved on a low-gravity world with a thick atmosphere. Their vision is adapted to different light wavelengths than ours." "Can we use that?" Sam asked. "Maybe. I need more time to study it." Sam turned to Chief Miller. "What's our combat readiness?" The old engineer grimaced. "The Endeavor's port weapons array is offline. The rest of us are as ready as we'll ever be." Sam looked around the table. "The Kryvaxians outnumber us more than 2 to 1. Their technology is superior. The odds are against us." Ambassador Ellis spoke softly. "These people are facing extinction, Captain." "I know." Sam stood up and walked to the view screen showing the planet below. "We need to make the Kryvaxians understand that attacking the Vosarians means dealing with humanity too." "Even though we're the weakest fleet Earth could send?" Porter asked. Sam turned back to his officers. "The Kryvaxians don't know that. And sometimes the weakest tool is exactly what you need for the job." He pointed to the tactical display. "Here's what we're going to do. They attack at the same time each day, which means their ships will be in position 12 hours from now. Porter, I want a plan that uses their predictability against them." "Yes, sir." "Miller, work with Dr. Carter on anything we can use against their sensory systems." "Captain," Grant interrupted, "the Vosarians are asking to send a representative to our ship, a scientist named Nex who specializes in Kryvaxian studies." Sam nodded. "Approve it. We need all the help we can get." He looked at the faces of his misfit crew. For the first time since taking command, he saw determination instead of resignation in their eyes. "We have one chance to make an impression." Let's make it count. The Vosarian scientist Nex looked nothing like High Minister Zilk's. Where Zilk's had green exoskeleton, Nex was blue. 4 slender arms worked quickly as he examined the schematics of the U.S. constellation. "Your ship is primitive," Nex said, his mandibles clicking softly. Chief Engineer Miller crossed his arms. "Outdated, not primitive. There's a difference." They stood in engineering, surrounded by humming equipment. Captain Sam Reeves watched as the alien and the engineer studied each other. "Show him," Sam said. Miller nodded and led them to a sealed section of engineering. Inside were rows of analog controls and thick cables. "What is this?" Nex asked. "Backup systems," Miller explained. "No computers, just mechanical switches and physical connections. Most new ships got rid of these 20 years ago." Sam tapped on one of the metal panels. "When the Zenith Collective attacked Earth, their first move was an electronic pulse that shut down our advanced systems. Ships like the Constellation survived because of these old backups." Nex's compound eyes reflected the dim light. "The Kravaxians used similar electronic attacks." "Won't work on us," Miller said with pride. "Not completely, anyway." On the bridge, Lieutenant Porter and Dr. Carter worked with Nex to analyze the Kravaxian fleet movements. "Their ships rely heavily on energy shields," Porter noted. "Modern Earth vessels are the same. But not us," Sam said. "The Constellation and the other ships in our fleet still have physical armor plating, twice as thick as modern ships." Dr. Carter pointed to data on his tablet. "Nex confirmed my findings. Kravaxian visual systems are sensitive to ultraviolet pulses. It could temporarily blind their targeting systems." "Can we create such pulses?" Sam asked. Chief Miller nodded. "The old emergency beacons on each ship can be modified. Won't work for long, but might give us a few seconds of advantage." "I need those seconds," Porter said. In the communications room, Specialist Grant worked with 3 of her team members. Maps of the Vosarian system covered the walls. "The Kravaxians use quantum communications," she explained to Sam. "Very advanced, nearly impossible to intercept." "But," Grant smiled, "but they don't monitor old radio frequencies anymore. Too primitive. We can use them to coordinate without being detected." Sam placed a hand on her shoulder. "Good work, Captain," Grant said as he turned to leave. The crew of the Intrepid finished their modifications. "All ships report ready." Sam stood in his quarters, staring at the star map. A soft knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. "Enter." Ambassador Ellis walked in. "The fleet is hiding behind the moons as planned." "Any sign the Kravaxians detected us?" She shook her head. "No, they believe the Vosarians are alone." Sam sighed. "We're about to attack a superior force with ships that belong in museums. Sometimes old ways can surprise those who rely too much on the new," Ellis said. "The Vosarians told me something interesting today. In their history, there was a small insect that survived when larger species died out. Do you know why?" "Why?" "It wasn't specialized. It could adapt. Like your fleet of mismatched ships." Sam smiled slightly. "Poetic, but we need more than poetry to win." "You have more," Ellis said. "You have a crew with nothing to lose and everything to prove." On the bridge, the senior officers gathered for final instructions. The main view screen showed the Kravaxian fleet moving into bombardment position. "They're targeting the Vosarian capital today," Porter reported. 5 million civilians are sheltering there. Sam took his seat in the command chair. "All ships report." One by one, the captains of the other 6 vessels confirmed they were ready. "Launch Operation Dinosaur," Sam ordered. Lieutenant Porter raised an eyebrow. "Dinosaur, sir." A rare smile crossed Sam's face. "Honoring our fleet's nickname. Old and extinct doesn't mean harmless." The U.S. Constellation's engines hummed to life as it emerged from behind the smaller of the Vosarian moons. The other ships followed, spreading out in attack formation. "The Kravaxians are detecting us," Grant announced. "They're hailing." "Ignore them," Sam ordered. "All ships, Activate ultraviolet pulse on my mark. He looked around at his crew. The misfits, the has-beens, the last chancers. Fire. Brilliant ultraviolet light burst from the human ships, invisible to human eyes, but blinding to the Kravaxians. On the Constellation's view screen, the enemy vessels seemed to drift aimlessly. They're blind, Lieutenant Porter announced. Weapons systems are confused. Captain Sam Reeves leaned forward in his command chair. All ships, execute attack pattern Delta. Target their lead destroyers. The 7 human ships accelerated toward the much larger Kravaxian fleet. Their outdated weapons fired in perfect coordination. Direct hit on Kravaxian Destroyer 1, Porter reported. Their shields are holding but weakening. U.S. Horizon and U.S. Valor, focus fire on that destroyer, Sam ordered through the old radio frequencies. Dauntless and Endeavor, take the second destroyer. The Constellation shuddered as Kravaxian weapons found their mark. Shield strength at 40%, Chief Miller reported from engineering. But our armor is holding. On the view screen, Sam watched as the first Kravaxian destroyer's shields failed under the combined attack. The ship's weapons went dark as it started to drift. One down, Porter said with a grin. The UV pulse is wearing off, Dr. Carter warned. They'll recover their vision in 30 seconds. Sam nodded. All ships, prepare for counterattack. The Kravaxian response came quickly. Their remaining ships formed a defensive circle, concentrating fire on the U.S. Intrepid. Intrepid is taking heavy damage, Communications Specialist Grant reported. Captain Alvarez reports shield failure. Order them to fall back, Sam commanded. Constellation will cover their retreat. The Intrepid turned away, trailing debris from its damaged hull. The Constellation moved between it and the Kravaxians, taking multiple hits. Shield failure imminent. Miller's voice came over the comm. Switching to armor protection only. A massive explosion rocked the ship, throwing Sam against his chair restraints. Damage report. Hull breach on Deck 4, Porter reported. Emergency bulkheads holding. We've lost starboard weapons. Sam watched as the Kravaxian fleet regrouped. Their initial surprise was gone, replaced by organized fury. The second destroyer is disabled, Grant announced, but the others are targeting us specifically now. They've identified us as the command ship, Sam said. All vessels, scatter and regroup at the rendezvous point. On the U.S. Intrepid, Captain Juan Alvarez and his crew fought a different battle. A Kravaxian boarding party had managed to enter through the damaged hull section. They're in the main corridor, Alvarez reported to Sam via the emergency channel. My security team is engaging. Sam watched the tactical display with concern. Do you need assistance? Negative, Alvarez replied. There were sounds of energy weapons and shouting in the background. We've made an interesting discovery. The Kravaxians are physically weaker than us. The transmission continued as Alvarez provided updates on the hand-to-hand combat. The Kravaxians, evolved on a low-gravity world, couldn't match the human crew's strength. We've repelled the boarding party, Alvarez finally reported. 4 casualties, but we've captured 2 Kravaxians alive. The battle continued for another hour. The human fleet managed to disable 2 enemy ships, but the cost was high. 3 human vessels were heavily damaged, and the Constellation's engine room was on fire. We need to retreat, Porter said as another hit rocked the bridge. We've bloodied their nose, but we can't win this fight right now. Sam nodded grimly. All ships, fall back to Vosarian Moon Base Alpha. Maintain radio silence once you're in position. The human fleet broke away from the battle, using the planet's gravity to increase their speed. The Kravaxians followed at first, then stopped, apparently unwilling to abandon their orbital positions. On the bridge of the Constellation, Sam watched his damaged ships retreat to safety. We hurt them, Porter said, wiping blood from a cut on her forehead. But they'll be ready for our tricks next time. Then we'll need better tricks, Sam replied. Get our wounded to medical. I want damage reports from all ships within the hour. He looked at the distant stars, his expression determined. This was just round one, and now we know they can bleed. The Vosarian moon base was a simple mining outpost, now serving as the human fleet's temporary headquarters. Inside the largest chamber, Captain Sam Reeves studied the holographic display showing the Kryvaxian fleet positions. "They've increased their defenses," Lieutenant Porter said, pointing to the enemy formations. "They won't fall for the same trick twice." 3 days had passed since their first engagement. The damaged human ships had been repaired as much as possible with limited resources. The Intrepid would never fly at full speed again, and the Constellation's starboard weapons remained offline. "We need a new approach," Sam said. Porter nodded and activated a different display. "I've been studying their command structure. The Kryvaxians follow a strict hierarchy. All orders come from their flagship, this vessel here." She pointed to a large ship at the center of the enemy fleet. "If we could disrupt their command chain," Sam began. "Exactly. But we'd need to get close to that flagship. Really close." A new voice joined the conversation. "Perhaps I can help with that." Dr. Carter entered with Nex and 2 other Vosarian scientists. They carried containers of glowing blue liquid. "What is this?" Sam asked. "A biological countermeasure," Dr. Carter explained. "Based on what we learned from the captured Kryvaxians, we've developed a compound that affects their nervous system. Non-lethal, but highly disorienting." Nex's antennae twitched with excitement. It must be delivered directly into their air circulation systems. Sam raised an eyebrow. "You mean someone needs to board their flagship?" "A small team would suffice," Porter said, her eyes gleaming with the challenge. In another section of the base, Chief Miller supervised as engineers from all 7 ships worked together. They had cannibalized parts from the most damaged sections to create something new. "What exactly are we building, Chief?" Sam asked as he entered the makeshift workshop. Miller grinned. "Remember how I said these old ships had tricks? Well, meet the biggest trick of all." He pulled a tarp away to reveal a large cylindrical device. "We called it a pulse cannon back in the day. Modern ships don't carry them anymore because they drain too much power and new shields block them anyway. But Kryvaxian shields are different," Sam realized. "Exactly. Their shields stop physical projectiles and energy beams, but they're not designed for this kind of pulse. It's too old school for them." Ambassador Ellis met with High Minister Zilks in the command center. The Vosarian leader had brought unexpected news. "You have ships?" Sam asked in surprise. Zilks's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Not warships, science vessels, and cargo ships. But they have engines and can be controlled." "How many?" 12. They are hidden in underwater facilities. The Kryvaxians never found them." Sam looked at Ambassador Ellis, who nodded encouragingly. "Minister Zilks," Sam said, "we might have a use for those ships." The next day, the senior officers gathered for the final briefing. The plan was bold and dangerous. "We'll attack in 2 groups," Sam explained. "The main fleet, along with the Vosarian vessels, will engage the Kryvaxian forces directly. Our goal is not to win but to create chaos and draw attention." He nodded to Porter. "Meanwhile, Lieutenant Porter will lead a small team on the U.S. Valor to approach the Kryvaxian flagship from below. Using the planet's magnetic field as cover, they should be able to get close enough to board. Once aboard," Porter continued, "we'll deploy Dr. Carter's compound and disrupt their command structure." At that exact moment, Miller added, "the Constellation will fire the pulse cannon at their flagship. With their coordination broken, we target their key ships one by one." Sam looked around at his crew. 3 weeks ago, they had been a collection of misfits on outdated ships. Now they moved with purpose and determination. "Make no mistake," he said, "this plan is risky, but it's our best chance to save the Vosarians and ourselves." He stood straight, his voice firm. "Rest well tonight. Tomorrow, we either make history or become part of it." As the officers dispersed, Sam remained looking at the tactical display. The enemy still outnumbered them. Their ships were still more advanced. But for the first time, he truly believed they had a chance. The Vosarian sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting long shadows across space. The human Vosarian fleet moved silently into position. Aboard the U.S. Constellation, Captain Sam Reeves gave the final command. All ships, commence Operation Freedom. The combined fleet surged forward, approaching the Krivaxian vessels from multiple directions. The enemy responded quickly, moving to intercept. "They're taking the bait," communications specialist Grant reported. "All Krivaxian ships except the flagship are engaging our main fleet." Sam nodded. "Lieutenant Porter, you are clear to proceed." On the U.S. Valor, Porter and her small team accelerated toward the planet, using its curve to hide their approach toward the Krivaxian flagship. "Good hunting, Lieutenant," Sam said. "Thank you, Captain. See you on the other side." The battle erupted with full force. The human ships, despite their age, fought with surprising effectiveness. The Vosarian vessels, though not built for combat, provided critical support by jamming Krivaxian communications and running interference. "The Dauntless is hit badly," Grant reported. "Captain Kim is evacuating to the Endeavor." Sam watched the tactical display with grim determination. "Tell the Endeavor to fall back and support the horizon." "Where is the Valor?" "Approaching the flagship now, sir." Aboard the Krivaxian flagship, Porter and her team moved swiftly through the alien corridors. Dr. Carter's compound was loaded into small devices that would release it into the ship's air system. "This way to the command center," one of her team members whispered, following the schematics provided by the captured Krivaxians. They encountered resistance but used their physical advantage to overcome the Krivaxian guards. Finally, they reached the central air circulation hub. "Deploying compound now," Porter said into her communicator. Within minutes, alarms began sounding throughout the flagship as the Krivaxian crew began experiencing the effects of the compound. Confusion spread through their ranks. "The flagship's defenses are weakening," Grant announced on the Constellation's bridge. "Lieutenant Porter reports success." Sam didn't hesitate. "Chief Miller, fire the pulse cannon." The makeshift weapon hummed to life, drawing power from the Constellation's engines. A brilliant pulse of energy shot across space, striking the Krivaxian flagship directly. Its shields flickered and failed. "All ships, concentrate fire on these coordinates," Sam ordered, marking key points on the flagship. The human fleet turned as one, focusing their attack with precision. The Krivaxian flagship's engines exploded in a blinding flash. Without direction from their leaders, the remaining Krivaxian ships fell into disarray. "They're breaking formation," Porter reported from inside the flagship. "The command crew is completely disoriented." "The remaining Krivaxian vessels are retreating," Grant announced with disbelief in her voice. "They're actually running." A cheer erupted on the bridge of the Constellation, quickly spreading to all ships in the fleet. The celebration was cut short when a massive explosion rocked the Constellation. Sam was thrown from his chair, hitting his head against a console. Everything faded to black. When Sam opened his eyes, he was in the medical bay of the Vosarian Central Hospital. Dr. Carter stood nearby, talking with High Minister Zilks. "The fleet? My crew?" Sam asked weakly. "We won," Carter replied with a smile. "The Krivaxian forces have fully withdrawn from Vosarian space. We lost the Dauntless, but most of her crew survived. The Constellation took heavy damage, but Miller and his team are already working on repairs." High Minister Zilks approached the bed. "Captain Reeves, the Vosarian people owe you a debt we can never repay. We request a formal alliance with Earth." Sam tried to sit up. "I'm just a captain. That decision is for the Earth Council." "I've already communicated with Earth," Ambassador Ellis said, entering the room. "The Council was impressed by our victory. They've authorized a permanent defense force in Vosarian space with you as its commander." "Me?" Sam asked in surprise. "They're promoting me to admiral." Ellis nodded. "The fleet will be expanded. The obsolete ships prove their worth." Sam looked out the window at the Vosarian cityscape. In the distance, he could see the U.S. constellation in dry dock, damaged but proud. "News of our victory is spreading," Ellis continued. "3 other species have already contacted Earth seeking protection from similar threats." Sam smiled. "So Earth sent its weakest fleet, and it turned out to be exactly what was needed," Ellis finished. Outside the window, a new day dawned on the alliance between humans and Vosarians, and the beginning of humanity's role as protectors in the galaxy.